Welcome to the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay. This is your positive path for spiritual living.
Love being a part of this place and the wonderful people that make it up. Alrighty, so we are embarking this morning on a journey. Of course, the truth is every moment of your life, my friends, is a journey, and it's an adventure in case you haven't noticed. Sometimes it's a little frightening, sometimes it's overwhelming, sometimes it's beautiful, sacred, and easy to see those qualities in the experiences that we're going through with whomever it may be that we're going through them with. We're going on with this program basically because you asked for it. A number of months ago, our Board of Trustees, headed up by Eddie Dominguez, got together with small groups of you and started asking you what you liked, and of course maybe what you didn't like so much, about Unity on the Bay. And one of the things that you told us you would really appreciate was to have a better, more solid understanding of the Unity way of life, basic Unity fundamentals and principles, so that you could better articulate them for yourself and also in the midst of other people. So what we decided to do was to take this book written by Unity minister Ellen Davenport a number of years ago. It's called The 5 Principles, A Guide to Practical Spirituality. To explore this book for the next 6 weeks, there are many different ways that you can do this. One of them is by being with us every Sunday for the next 6 weeks, because we'll be taking one of the basic principles every week to go into depth to explore and to help you learn to be more articulate in explaining the principles to other people and in understanding them yourself. We'll also be having Monday and Tuesday night discussion groups. On Monday nights, I'll facilitate the group. On Tuesday nights, Juan will facilitate the group. So this starts tomorrow night and Tuesday night, where you can take in what you receive on Sunday morning and then come join us for a casual conversation. Tomorrow night and every night we'll have food, so if you don't have time to stop for dinner, no worries, no excuses. Come and spend some time with us, enjoy the food, enjoy the fellowship, and let us support you in going deeper into understanding these 5 simple, basic principles. Simple, but not always easy to embrace, and certainly not always easy to live. There's also going to be 2 workshops presented by Reverend Elizabeth on the subject of the 5 principles. One of them is today at 1 o'clock in Cameron House. The next one will be at the summation of the program, which is on October 23rd. You can join her again for a workshop at that time. So what we really want to do is give you all the tools and all the ability that we possibly can to really understand this way of life that you have found to be supportive and helpful in getting through the drama and the adventure of your existence. Also, there are many of you that are accustomed to gathering in homes during the fall months so that you can support each other in the exploration of a particular book. You can do that this year. When you leave today, you'll have the opportunity to receive a handout that has an excerpt from the book along with study questions and an affirmation. You can form your own group if you have a group that has met in the past. Pull them back together. We happily support you in your home study groups. And maybe you just have some friends and associates here at Unity on the Bay that you'd like to get together for a weeknight gathering once a week for the next 6 weeks. At any rate, what I want to do is encourage you to enter into this exploration with us. And you may say to yourself, "Oh, Chris, I've heard you talk about these 5 basic Unity principles a bajillion times." And I'll tell you the truth, I have talked about them a bajillion times. But you know what? You still don't know them. And neither do I. And the reason for this is that spiritual principles are very interesting. Every time you're exposed to a true life principle, spiritual life principle, you get it from a slightly different angle than you did the time before. Yes, I've taught these and I've preached these a bajillion times, but the reality is I'm still getting them. And I'm never the same person studying them twice. In case no one has told you, let me share with you that you are not right now in this room the same person who woke up this morning. You say, what? You're not. You're not even the same person that just a few minutes ago walked into this room. You are different. You're evolving, and everything that you go through in life is evolving you. So you're always a different person from moment to moment to moment. It's important to know this so that you don't get crystallized and become stagnant in your thinking. Every time I have reviewed these principles, I've gotten them at a deeper level of my being, and I guarantee you, you will too in these 6 weeks together. So let's get rolling on this journey. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be rewarding. It's going to be educational, inspirational. It's also going to help us in fulfilling our mission and our vision here at Unity on the Bay. And our mission and our vision kind of got an overhaul a few years ago because we began answering a call that is moving throughout the Unity way of life around the world right now. And that is that while we have always seen these principles as tools that can support us in becoming happier in life, having more fulfilling relationships, moving through each day with greater peace of mind, healthier body, whatever it might be, more money in our bank account. We have learned over the first 100 years of Unity's existence how these principles can support and help us. That's you and that's me. But something, if you haven't noticed, is happening in the collective consciousness of humanity on the planet right now. It's not just an individual spiritual awakening that you are having or that I am having. There is a collective spiritual awakening taking place on the planet. Yes, even in the midst of all the insanity that we are seeing enacted out upon the drama of daily existence, even with all the cares and concerns that we might hold about the future of the human scene, I tell you this, something is breaking through. There is an evolution, a collective evolution in consciousness right now, and if no one has told you about this, let me share with you that you are a huge and significant part of it. As you awaken, you receive something that this morning I'm going to call a sacred responsibility. The sacred responsibility has to do with you committing to understanding and living in integrity with spiritual principle as it's revealed to you. And the second part of that sacred responsibility is that you must support then others in their spiritual awakening. It's not just about you, as wonderful as I think you are. It's not just about me, as wonderful as I think I am. It's about all of us, you see. And once you begin to awaken, once you begin to recognize that there's a spiritual reality behind the reality reported by your five senses, you then have a responsibility to carry that torch of understanding and enlightenment out into the world. And I guarantee you this, my friends, there is not a single solitary soul that is a part of your life experience right now that isn't in your life to receive something from you. So if you have friends and family who are going through perils, now you'll be relieved to know that I'm not saying you have to take a Bible and thump it in their face. I'm not about that. I'm just saying that, first of all, by your very example, you bring an energy to all those that are a part of your world. And secondly, you can help them not so much to make them converts of the Unity way of life, but to understand the universal spiritual principles that are guiding all of life and are found in every great religious tradition that has ever been. So your role is to be an advocate for universal spiritual principle, understanding, and application. The world is a scary place right now, in case you haven't noticed. And there's nothing in the world that is going to make the world any less frightening, my friends. There is something beyond the world. There is something that transcends the world that will help the world. And that is spiritual understanding, spiritual discernment, spiritual guidance. So it's time for you, as you begin to recognize the power of these universal spiritual principles in your life, to become a representative of those principles in the world at large. This is why I am always telling you that you are, each and every one of you, a minister. And you have a congregation, and it's called the cast of characters of your life. And you have the ability, you see, as you understand these principles, as you become well acquainted with them, as you begin to take faith in them, sharing that with others, sharing the Unity way of life, sharing the appreciation of spiritual principle and its ability to bring answers to the questions of our times. And there are many such questions. I want to begin by just reviewing all of the principles at one time. And I'll need to ask Jason's cooperation with the PowerPoint here because this is going to go outside of the original organization this talk once had. But I want to just share with you all of the 5 principles in summary first, okay? And the first one is this. God is absolute good everywhere present. Will you say that with me? God is absolute good everywhere present. How many of you believe that? Put your hands down, please. I know that you want to believe that. But I also know that you, like me, have little tiny pockets and sometimes not so little and sometimes not so tiny pockets that still don't believe it. And that's because you've been raised in a paradigm that embraces a belief in 2 powers, good and evil, God and Satan. We've all been raised in a physical reality that reflects a strong and abiding belief, a faith in 2 powers. Yes, there is God. Yes, there is a sense of benevolence, kindness, goodness, but also there's hell out there. And there's a primary force driving that experience of hell. Let me tell you this morning that none of that stuff exists out here. Your life experience is a reflection of that which you have held in your own mind and heart to be true. The existence of 2 powers is taking place because you are substantiating it. You are agreeing in 2 powers, in 2 presences, and thus it becomes your reality. Very important distinction to make, my friends. I remember, let me get back to my summation before I get off on the details here. The second principle. First one, God is absolute good everywhere present. Secondly, human beings have a spark of divinity within them, the Christ Spirit within. Their very essence is of God, and they are also inherently good. It stands to reason, does it not? That if in fact there's only one presence, there's only one power, and it's God and it's good, then how could you be anything but part of it? If that's all there is, that's all there is. So you are a part of this one presence and one power. You knit those 2 principles together, 1 and 2, and you really have, I'm going to make this so easy for you this morning, not 5 principles to learn, but only 1, and that's it. One presence, one power, it's God, it's good. If you really get that, you can forget about the rest of them, because the rest of them are just telling you ways in which to embrace the first one. So the first 2, one presence, one power, you are a part of it. How could it be otherwise? Because that's all there is, okay? Now let's take a look at the 3rd and 4th principles, beginning with this. Human beings create their experience by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. This is a tool to help you be able to experience the reality of the first and second principles. If you want to really have a life wherein there is only one presence and one power manifesting at every level of your being, you need to take responsibility for the thoughts that you are holding in your mind. It's that old law of mind action. Thoughts held in mind are forever producing after their kind. So you are the thought generator, if you will. You are the thought projector that is throwing this experience of reality out here in front of you. You see, you always have 2 things going on in your experience, my friends. You have divine reality, and then you have human experience. When I was rather young, at least a number of years ago, I had a therapist. Have you ever heard of a therapist? People think Unity ministers don't need therapists, but let me tell you, they need it more than anyone. So I had this therapist for many years. His name was Dr. Terry Norman. He was in Kansas City. He became a good friend of mine. He was a great support to me. As a therapist, there was none better. But we had one issue that we forever struggled on, and that was when I would come down to this root teaching of there's only one presence and there's only one power. He said, if you don't think there's evil in this world, you're a fool. And he said it respectfully, but... And I said, no, really, he didn't want to get it, my friends. And there's going to be people in your world that don't want to get this either. Because evil seems so real, does it not? You cannot walk up to somebody and say, well, I go to Unity and we only believe in one presence and one power, and that's God and that's good, unless you can explain evil. Because the first thing that they're going to tell you is, look at this. How can you say this is one presence, and how can you say that it's good? To understand this, we have to take just a moment to look at divine reality as opposed to human experience. I'll grant you, our day-to-day experience does not reflect the reality of one presence and one power. That's because of this thing called consciousness. And for this morning's sake, I would like for you to be introduced to this lectern, which is now becoming consciousness, okay? This lectern represents your consciousness. You with me? And this lectern stands between divine reality and your human experience. This lectern, this consciousness which dwells within you, is the sum total of everything that you believe, everything that you have invested your faith in, whether it be true or false, accurate or erroneous. Your consciousness is that which you have allowed to take up residency in your field of awareness. The truth is that many of us have accepted ideas, concepts, and beliefs that are not grounded in spiritual reality, but they have taken up residency in our consciousness nonetheless, and they have filtered our experience on the human level of the divine reality. You see, it's like putting on a pair of glasses. It's like putting a film in front of a projector. Your consciousness filters your experience of divine reality. If in your consciousness you are believing that there are two powers, that there is an evil force in the world, and this is a deeply ingrained belief for many of us, myself included, then your experience, you see, no matter what divine reality would say, your experience is going to be that there's hell, that there's two presences, that there's two powers, that there's a Satan and that there's a God. It's not until we examine the consciousness, and that's where this law of mind action principle comes into play, that we start looking at what's creating this filter between our human experience and divine reality and cleaning it up so that we can see clearly, we can stand in the resolution that there's only one presence. It's not just something we would like to believe, much as we would like to believe it. It's something we have now allowed ourselves to embrace completely because we have released all of the erroneous programming, conditioning, and whatever it is that lies in our consciousness. The filter then you see is clear, just like this lectern is clear. The next principle is that prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God, mind, and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. Prayer is the most accelerated form of human thought and the most accelerated form of human consciousness. So it is through prayer that we open ourselves to the recognition that there aren't two powers at play here, there's only one. And finally, the fifth principle, knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, are not enough. A person must live the truth that he or she knows. And I often say I have a love-hate relationship with this teaching because isn't it wonderful to just go out to the world and say, God is all there is. God is you. God is me. It's like the flower children of the 1960s. Love, 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 love. I love that. But the reality is it's not until you're embracing a really difficult situation in life or something that just lights your fuse even a little bit that you begin to realize you still have an investment in evil. You still have an investment in adversity. You still have an investment in opposition. Are you with me on this? That's why every negative situation that comes upon the doorstep of your existence is a gift from God. It is showing you one of those little pockets in your consciousness that hasn't yet believed fully in the one presence and the one power that is God. So when someone says, but evil exists, you say, absolutely, evil does exist. I get it. In the human experience, in the human translation of ultimate divine reality, you bet you. And doesn't it look real when it shows right up in your face? That's your opportunity to go into your consciousness and look at what's being held there that is creating the experience of duality, right, wrong, good, bad, evil, and beauty and love. One of the realizations I mentioned earlier, this like great commission or great revelation or great responsibility that we all have, my friends, is to realize that we're not going through this awakening just for ourselves. As wonderful as it may be, and as challenging as it may be. Sometimes, and you know from my own experience, it's really difficult for me to bring this recognition of one presence and one power to all of the dark situations in my life, those that call out for it the most. It's not easy in your own life, and I'm not saying it's easy on this planet for the whole human family to do this either. I'm just saying it's necessary. I'm saying that it's time, and I'm saying that there is nothing else that is going to save the human situation right now short of a spiritual revolution. As you then begin to realize how these principles have benefited you, it becomes your sacred responsibility to get them out so that others can benefit from them as well. You know, we could spend an endless amount of money sending out a marketing message all around Miami and all around the world telling people to come to Unity on the Bay. But there is nothing that brings that brings a person to Unity on the Bay like your invitation. Did you know that? How many of you, just let me ask, are in the room this morning because somebody that you know and trusted invited you to come be a part of this? I rest my case, you know. So you're the ambassadors. And I'm not telling you to get out there and pound the pavement for Unity, although personally I believe it's a wonderful way to go. I'm telling you to get out there and start pounding the pavement for spiritual principle, universal in nature. The wonderful thing about Unity is that we honor the spiritual path of all the great religions of the world. We always say we are a way to spiritual liberation. We're not the way. There are many ways, different strokes for different folks. But for those individuals that you know have been called into your life because you can offer them an understanding of spiritual principle from a Unity perspective, get about your business and do so. Sometimes I think that we have been so paranoid of being portrayed like our fundamentalist brothers and sisters that we are out to try to convert the world, that we don't want to convert anybody. But the reality is there are people in your life, and you know who they are right now, that can benefit from this way of life. So it becomes your sacred responsibility, first and foremost, to live in integrity with the teaching. Because I swear to you right now, if you go out and try to share this teaching with other people and you're not in integrity with it yourself, woe unto you. Because the universe is very intolerant of hypocrisy, and it will give you the cosmic 2x4 right up the you-know-what. So you check your own house to make sure it's in order. Am I prepared to serve as an ambassador? Now I take forth, free of judgment, free of condemnation for my fellow man. I want to start making a contribution toward the spiritual awakening of every single human being on this planet. And it begins, my friends, by you starting to make that contribution to the persons that are closest to you. You want to see the world change? That's the invitation. You want to participate? 6 weeks right here at Unity on the Bay. I guarantee by the time we're finished, you will be a walking, talking encyclopedia on the 5 basic principles of the Unity work. And most of all, your life will be a direct reflection of it. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Chris. I'm so excited that we're all taking this journey on the 5 principles together because, as Chris mentioned, it really is about community and doing this work of spiritual awakening together. Actually, a couple of reminders, the book you can purchase at the Source Bookstore. Today at 1 o'clock begins the first workshop with the program in the Cameron House. Reverend Elizabeth is leading it. And one of the quick things that she said about it is that knowing that there is only one power and one presence is not enough. It is time to awaken this reality within us and embody the presence of the divine. So it's about awakening and really embodying these principles. So if you want to take it a little further, join her in the workshop at 1 o'clock in the Cameron House. And again, a reminder that you can join Reverend Chris tomorrow evening or myself on Tuesday evening with that. And that there are questions in the foyer that you can take with you if you want to do the work on your own. With that, as our ushers are coming forward, just wanted to highlight that really, one of the things that I get from Reverend Chris's talk is that it's all about transformation, our own transformation and the transformation of the world. What I get from Laura and receiving the award and talking about the transformation that occurred in her is that we were a part of it. The spiritual community supported her in doing so. What I get from the Angels Everywhere team and the 4,800 backpacks is that it is our work to do in the community. And so your giving today is also a part of it. Your giving is to transform the lives of yourself, those around you, and those that may never know your name, but will feel your essence, your presence, and your energy. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite you to bring your love offering to your heart. If you're on Facebook, with that in mind, I'm going to invite you to click on the giving link. Just breathe into it. And let us speak our love offering blessing. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Amen.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Positive Spiritual Living Podcast, brought to you by Unity on the Bay, a spiritual community located in Miami, Florida. Unity on the Bay is supported by the generosity of its community. If you'd like to make a donation or learn more about Unity on the Bay, please visit unityonthebay.org. You can also follow Unity on the Bay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for even more positive spiritual inspiration. Until next time, thanks for listening and many blessings. Namaste.